Welcome to the Meant to Be Outdoors podcast, where our goal is to connect listeners to the great outdoors, with hosts Brian Hoffmeyer and Ben Brandell.
I'm host Ben Brandell, owner of Meant to Be Outdoors, instructor of outdoor skills, and passionate about personal growth.
I'm host Brian Hoffmeyer, wildlife biologist and avid outdoorsman. Welcome back to the Meant to Be Outdoors podcast. It's Myth Monday. I'm your host, Brian Hoffmeyer. I have with me my co-host, Ben Brandell. Ben, would you like to introduce today's topic for us?
Yes, today's topic, one of my favorite. Another Myth Monday.
I don't know if I'd call it your favorite.
It's true. It's actually my least favorite. I'm glad we're addressing it in this episode.
Yeah, I hope after this, we don't hurt anybody's feelings. I hope it brings clarity. This is not meant to hurt anybody's feelings. Just one of these common misnomers in the wildlife and outdoor world that has bothered us over the years, especially working at the aquarium, because today we're talking about
Perch.
We're talking fish today. We're going to actually define what a perch is, and we hope that when you are done listening to this, that you will always use the correct term when talking about
Perch.
Well, bluegill.
Oh!
Because they're not using
You're
it right.
actually wanting to talk about bluegill today.
Bluegills, yeah.
Well, and
sunfish,
that's
all that.
perch.
No, Ben, it's not perch.
That's
the whole point of this.
What?
That's the whole point of this. So, guys, the misnomer or the misnaming, the word not used correctly, the myth, however you want to say it, is when people go to catch sunfish or bluegill or anything in that family, they call them perch. How many times?
Basically, fish that you're going to catch on a bobber.
Right. Or, that first fish you go catch when you're a kid, you go catch out of the pond, you go catch them to put on the catfish hook. People say, I'm going perch jerking, or, hey, did you catch any fish while you're out bass fishing today? No, I caught a couple. Perch. Well, we know that they're, especially around here, they're probably fishing a body of water that does not have a perch in it, because a perch, which is actually a fish out of the Percidae family, that is actually the root of the word perch, is going to be a yellow perch, some kind of darter, which there's a whole bunch of species of darters, a walleye, a sauger, anything in that area. And around here, people don't call walleye perch. If you catch a walleye, people call them a walleye.
They know what a walleye is.
And there's only one place down at Bull Shoals Lake that actually has yellow perch close to us.
Mm-hmm.
But people up north, where they're native to, around the Great Lake area and into Canada, they actually do go ice fishing. Wisconsin, that area, they actually do go ice fishing for yellow perch, but they're not native to here. So it drives us crazy when people say, I'm going to catch perch, because the fact of the matter is, the bluegill and the sunfish, we know what they're talking about when they say that, but those fish are actually in the sunfish family, Centrarchidae. They are not in the perch family. Mm-hmm. So it is definitely a misnomer. They're not right. Does it even matter, Ben? Do you think it matters, or is it just something that bothers us because you and I are crazy?
Well, we are crazy, I believe, but it does matter. Growing up, people would say, you going out and catching perch today, or they'd be fishing those tournaments, and they'd say, we didn't do any good. We just caught some little perch, And growing up, I didn't know the difference between bluegill and perch. I didn't quite understand the difference until...
Full transparency, Ben and I are both guilty of this in our lives.
Definitely.
Both guilty of this.
Definitely. And I think that's what hurts the most, is that I'd been living in that lie. But growing up, not knowing the difference until one day I caught this fish that I had never even seen before. I was like, what is this thing? It kind of looks like a walleye, kind of. Yeah. It's the fins. And I'm like, what is this? And so I had to do my own research.
Yeah.
And I found out that, I'd caught a yellow perch. And that's when my eyes were opened wide.
I finally caught my first actual yellow perch.
Yes,
this
you
year.
did.
So I went decades of my life. I'm in my mid-30s now, and I finally caught my first yellow perch, so I can actually say I've caught one. But I kind of felt bad. You were with me.
I was. It was a sad moment for that little guy.
We were fishing really deep. 54 feet is where I got the bite on this perch using an ice jig.
Well, on electronics, you could see there were, hundreds of fish.
Yeah, a big old ball of them
deep,
down there. We didn't really know what they were,
no.
But I said, I got a bite, and I brought this thing up, and about halfway up, it just quit fighting, and I was like, oh, it got away. And I pulled it up, and he he didn't get away, but he was gone.
Yeah, it looked like
if
a
you know what
puffer
I'm
fish.
saying.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a full-blown puffer puffed out.
His eyes were puffed out, his head, everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he didn't survive that catch.
Yeah, he didn't.
But no. I did get my first perch, so I can actually say I've caught a perch, even though I've caught thousands, I feel like maybe millions of bluegill and sunfish over the years.
Yeah, I mean,
especially when we go to the pond.
You take your son to the pond all the time, and you guys catch a lot of bluegill.
I feel like some days we catch like 50.
Yeah.
But what's cool for me is now that I know and I've been around and God's blessed me with the resources and the education and the people to be around, I can teach him from a young age what's right.
Correct.
And I do believe, I mean, at the end of the day, if you were to say, yeah, I caught some perch, I'm probably going to think, because you were at a lake that doesn't have yellow perch, I'm probably going to think you caught some bluegill or sunfish.
Right. Well, because of the knowledge you have,
right.
Like when you usually know where someone's went fishing, they came back from Table Rock Lake and they say, yeah, we just caught some perch today. You know that they're talking about bluegill because that lake does not have perch at this time. Right. So at this time, but why it's important to me is because truth does matter, and the words that we use do matter, and there's consequences.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, if you really want to get down to the root of all of it, God gave man dominion to name the animals. He brought them to Adam to name these.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's part of our stewardship and that's part of our thing, then once they are named, we should call them by the right name, don't you think?
We should, yeah. And there are people that are passionate about naming the animals by the right name, from horse to mule to donkey. I know I have some family members that if I was to call, a mule a donkey, I'm going to get made fun of, right? For some reason, perch and bluegill, it's never really hit that level. But for me, it has, because it's not true. They're completely different.
I'm sure somebody's listening to us and they're like, thank goodness somebody's sharing this.
Yes.
So I'm sure there's somebody that's feeling us, and hopefully we're changing somebody's hearts on this. And now when they hear it, they're gonna maybe want to correct the person, or they're gonna feel our pain a little bit too. So we're not the only ones feeling it.
That's right.
Even from a biological standpoint, though, if you and I were fisheries biologists, and there was a stream that was struggling because of a lack of bait fish, a lack of fish in the sunfish family, there weren't bluegill or sunfish that needed to be in there. And you were my boss, and you said, hey, Brian, go stock that stream with perch. It needs to be stocked. And I go and I stock it with actual yellow perch because I know what they are. Now I've introduced an invasive species to a stream and damaged that ecological system just over a single 5-letter word.
Yeah. Well, and also looking at what's happening today, right? So what is happening today in our waterways with the yellow perch? If here in Missouri, if you want to go catch perch and you want to look up how many can I have in my limit or in my possession, what is the length limit? When you would go to look that up here, you're not going to find anything.
You won't find it.
No, and that to me would be confusing because you'd think that there would be some sort of regulation on that fish.
Right. It's a non-native. A lot of places consider it to be invasive because any place that has trout, it has a direct impact on the juvenile trout. It will actually eat them. And those trout and those perch are actually competing for the same food, the same plankton, the same insects. They're competing at the same level, and it's of that food chain. And so they can damage the trout populations and even other native fish populations. So we have to be careful to move plants and animals from where they're supposed to be to other ecological systems because they can damage them. So at the end of the day, most of the time when you use the word perch, people know what you're talking about, but we do think it's important to call a perch by a perch because they are in the perch family, Percidae. Bluegill and sunfish are actually in the same family as black bass. They're all in that sunfish family, Centrarchidae. So let's keep them together. They're grouped together scientifically for a reason because of their likeness, and I think it's important to keep it that way.
Yeah, and for me, honestly, I want to share it. I don't want anyone to go out and start correcting everybody, right? If they hear it said incorrectly.
Time and a place.
I want the person listening to this to start changing it. So instead of you worrying about other people trying to change it, you change it first. Know what you're going to catch.
So you're saying more of a lead by example than a go out and say, hey, shut your mouth type deal.
Yeah. Just start doing it. Just start calling them perch when you catch a perch, call them bluegill when you catch a bluegill. Change that vocabulary, and
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I hope y'all have learned from this. I hope we didn't hurt anybody's feelings. Just to summarize, if it is in the sunfish family, bluegill, perch, pumpkin seeds. Oh my goodness, I did it. See, I did it right here. It's just so natural. Bluegill, sunfish, pumpkin seeds, green sunfish, long ears, red-breasted, warmouth, orange-spotted sunfish, dollar sunfish. There's a whole bunch of fish in that sunfish family, but let's call them for what they are. And if they are in the perch family, go ahead and call them a perch. Even if you called a walleye a perch, you would be more correct than if you called a bluegill a perch.
Great point.
So I hope you guys go out. I hope you start sharing it correctly, and maybe you can impact somebody. So thank you for listening to the Meant to Be Outdoors podcast. Between now and next Monday, we hope you find some time to get outdoors. Thank you for listening to the Meant to Be Outdoors podcast, hosted by Brian Hoffmeyer and Ben Brandell. Please help us by subscribing. Also, follow along on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.